Toronto police identify a 32-year-old mother of three as the victim of a brutal killing.
Very, very kind. Very outgoing. She was fun.
A childhood friend of Amanda Killeen remembers her as a caring person and devoted mother.
My wife came downstairs and she started crying, actually.
Plus, the emotional impact of the government's updated COVID vaccine priority list and the new target date for when all Ontarians over 18 can get a shot.
I was really happy that, I could finally be who I am.
And the grade 8 student who wouldn't take no for an answer and wound up helping his culture shine. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. We begin tonight with developing news in an ongoing homicide investigation. Toronto police have officially identified Amanda Killeen as the missing woman whose remains were found last week after a police-involved shooting death at a downtown apartment building. Dahlia Ashry is live outside 291 George Street tonight. And Dahlia, family and friends had already told us they anticipated this news would come. How are they reacting tonight?
Chris, I spoke to one of her friends and she says she's shaken after finding out the news today about police confirming the remains were of the body found of 32-year-old Amanda Killeen. Now, I spoke with Crystal Scopey, who is a childhood friend of Killeen, and she's devastated and still processing after losing her childhood friend. And even though it's been a year since they last spoke, she says she remembers Killeen as a devoted mother of three.
We used to all call ourselves the Spice Girls. Always worried about her kids, took care of her kids. She was very, very, very kind. Very outgoing. She was fun.
Now, Killeen's ex-boyfriend lived in this apartment building, and when she went missing in the Junction area on February 19th, they told police she still often came to visit here. Sources say officers were in fact headed to this building following up on that missing persons tip on February 23rd, when police got another tip from someone in the building that two men had been spotted on security footage carrying bags out the apartment building, and what appeared to be a body part fell from one of the bags. When tactical officers showed up to the building in the early morning hours of February 23rd, they encountered 45-year-old Getty Ali Getty in a third-floor suite. And after an interaction, police shot him and he later died. That's Killeen's ex-boyfriend, and Special Investigations Unit is still investigating that police shooting. Now, as for the homicide investigation, last week Toronto police also charged another man, 59-year-old Orson York, charged with indignity to a body. And this is what police had to say in regards to their connection.
We understand that there is they're known to each other, but we can't go into further details about the specifics of the relationship.
There's a second scene connected to this case, a garbage dump site not far from the building. Today, police also confirmed they found some of Killeen's remains at that transfer station. Now, the homicide investigation is ongoing, and police have asked anyone to come forward with information. And as you can see here behind me, people have left flowers and candles in memory of Amanda Killeen, and her family and friends are still mourning the devoted mother of three. Chris?
Such a heartbreaking tragedy. Thanks so much for the update tonight, Dahlia. Now to the latest on the COVID pandemic. And today, not only did we get an updated priority list for who's next up to get a vaccine, but the retired general in charge of Ontario's rollout also stunned people with an ambitious new target. Lorenda Redekop has that story.
He's 100 years old, a former doctor who delivered 3,000 babies. Still unsure when he'll get his shot.
I'd like to have a party with a whole bunch of my family, be able to hug and kiss them again. But it may not be so. And it's time is running out. I'm over 100 now. So I don't know how long I've got to look forward to all this.
His doctor sees him at home and just visited yesterday.
He asked her, you know, doctor, when am I getting a vaccine? And she had no answer for him, which we find very disheartening, very scary. What happens to the 90 and 100-year-old people like my dad that are shut-ins, that are at home, that don't have the capabilities of getting out, standing in lines?
Today, the province announced its latest timeline. People over 80 are supposed to have their first dose by the end of the month. Primary care providers will be among those giving the vaccines, but there were few details.
It's still unclear how family doctors, how primary care providers will be involved.
The man leading the rollout wants to compress today's timeline much more.
I want to actually challenge this even further, and I want to say by the first day of summer, we want to have vaccine supply dependent. We want to have a first needle in the arms of every person in Ontario who is eligible for the vaccine and who wants to get it.
That means everyone 18 and up. Today's timeline has a similar date just for phase 2. Eligible people there include anyone 60 to 79 or with risk factors. That includes many health conditions. Also, people who live or work in congregate settings, those who can't work from home, and people in hotspot communities. The possible faster timeline is due to another vaccine approved by Health Canada and more doses than expected of Pfizer-BioNTech coming to Canada this month. Claudio Leyva got a kidney transplant 8 years ago and was relieved to see people like him at the top of the list for risk factors.
I was so happy when I heard the news. I was working away, and my wife came downstairs, and she started crying, actually. It was a very emotional moment for us. We've been waiting for so long for this.
He's part of phase 2. The province is also starting to test its online booking system, set to roll out more widely March 15th. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
So optimism not just on the vaccine front today, but also some hope for struggling businesses in Toronto and Peel. Monday, the stay-at-home order will lift in both regions, and restrictions will be eased to the gray lockdown level. But as Farah Morelli tells us, the anxious wait is continuing for some.
Sports may be back in action, but since November, Tex Thomas has been on the sidelines, closed because of lockdown restrictions.
It's still been hell, to tell you the truth. Yes, we're open up until the second week of November, but it's still been tough.
Today, he learned his shop can finally reopen to customers as early as Monday.
It's great news. Still optimistic on how it's going to transpire. Again, if the consumer feels safe to come into stores, I think this should have been lifted a long time ago.
For the people of Ontario, I'm feeling super positive.
The province announced today restrictions will soon be loosened in Toronto and Peel. Here's what's allowed under the new gray zone rules. Non-essential shops can reopen, but with limited capacity. That includes shopping malls. Gathering rules will remain strict, with no indoor gatherings allowed. For outdoor gatherings, those will be limited to 10 people. Restaurants and bars will remain limited to takeout. Also staying closed, salons. News that came as a blow to those who have been anxiously waiting.
Devastating. Devastating, because I have a list of so many people that are ready and that are excited and that are so desperate to get in.
Michelle Bonnick says the waiting and uncertainty has made things difficult and questions the safety of other open businesses versus salons.
It would be great if we had a more definitive date, so then at least we'd be able to structure things a little bit better. I think that we should be open. I think that the standard that they have set for us is such a high standard, and just having, one person in at a time, you can control if a person is wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, instead of going to these big box stores where some people have the mask and some people just don't.
For small business owners like Thomas, they'll take the wins where they can get them. He hopes with hockey and basketball in full force, fans will return.
We're hoping that they will come back. We're going to do our part here to make sure everyone feels safe and comfortable to come back into the store and shop.
Well, the stay-at-home order will be lifted as of Monday and gatherings allowed outside. The messaging from the province is still to stay at home and to limit trips away from the home. Certainly, there are a lot of business owners that hope that one of those trips will include a visit to their shops as of Monday. Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
After a slow rollout, Ontario is now churning out 30 cannabis retail store licenses a week. But as Philip Lee Shannock reports, the prospect of more competition, especially during a pandemic, has some in the industry predicting a shakeup in the marijuana marketplace.
With in-store shopping curtailed in many regions, it's been tough times for cannabis startups. Just launched in October, the retail experience is at the heart of Greenport Cannabis.
We are opening a brand new business in a brand new industry during a pandemic. So those are huge strikes against any new business to begin with. So we're on an uphill climb, I would say.
Last summer, Ontario, Canada's largest cannabis market, had just 100 authorized retail stores. That brought criticism that the slow rollout was hurting legal sales and helping the black market. Wilson waited almost a year for her license. Now Ontario is aiming to approve 30 per week. Of the 480 licensed cannabis stores in this province, 4 are within blocks of this one. And with Ontario aiming to more than double the number of stores in just a few months, it has store owners like this one concerned about all that new competition.
It's inevitable that independent stores will also feel that impact. And I guess we'll all have to wait to see how dramatic it truly is.
The head of Canada's largest cannabis retail chain says despite adding so many stores, Ontario's system of serving as both wholesale distributor and competitor to private retail is a mistake.
When you open all these stores, if you have a model where the government is taking gross margin away from private retailers, then I think it is very, very clear that you're going to have business failures.
The Ontario Cannabis Store says while some very specific neighborhoods have many cannabis stores, most of the province is underserved.
There's a lot of market there to be served. There's a lot of growth to be had. There's going to be successes. There's going to be failures. That's the nature of an open marketplace.
And small and medium-sized operators count on the OCS to get them the best price from licensed producers.
I don't think that if they took that away, we would be able to get the same price as a lot of wealthier corporations with more stores.
And even though the OCS offers lower prices online, customers seem to prefer their local stores. Almost 90% of all legal cannabis in Ontario is bought from private retailers. Philip Lee Shannock, CBC News, Toronto.
A few flurries in our forecast and still some cooler temperatures through the weekend. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. Then next week, it's haywire. The temperature's going way above seasonal. I'll have all the forecast details coming up after the break.
Welcome back. A Newmarket student is being celebrated for speaking out and sparking change. When the 13-year-old was creating his avatar for virtual school, he noticed the head covering he wears was not an option. Talia Ricci tells us what happened next.
I wanted to make an avatar to be a part of the class photo.
A fun way to capture a virtual classroom. But for Karanveer Singh Anand, something important was missing.
Since I'm sick, I wear a patka, and that's basically a cloth that you tie around your head to cover it. There really wasn't anything like that in the Pixton avatar editor. When I originally saw that, I was pretty disappointed and sad, but I just thought that there really wasn't anything I could do.
His teacher, Ms. Angel, also noticed his avatar didn't represent his Sikh culture.
He seemed kind of bummed out, and so I asked permission if we could email Pixton. Change can happen, and I think that's the biggest thing. That's what I hope that I can give my students. They actually asked if Karanveer could gather some images together that would best represent his culture.
We also used some of the reference images to choose some of the colors that we used as well. And so I think it turned out he was pretty darn happy about that. And we learned something. Sometimes we miss something or we don't know about it. And so our users come back to us with this information. And the second that they tell us about it, we try to get it in there just to make sure that everybody is represented.
Soon after, the grade 8 student was pleased to see these new options.
They actually added it in. And I was so happy and so glad.
Representation really matters. Particularly in this online environment.
If you could deliver a message to the student who did this, what would you say to him?
I'd say that we're very proud of what you did, and standing up and recognizing a problem is important, but then finding a solution is even more important.
How did it feel when you got to recreate your avatar and actually make it look like you?
I was really happy that, I could finally be who I am. It just feels really good when you can make a difference in the world, make your culture really bright, shine brightly, and to be able to wear patka and pride.
And share his class photo with pride, too. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Love seeing that. Young people taking action and pushing for change. Now, one thing that doesn't seem to be changing right now, the weather, not just yet anyway. Colette Kennedy joins us now with a look at the forecast. And Colette, chilly again today and plenty of sunshine.
Thanks, Chris. Here we were again today with those northwesterly winds really blowing. I mean, lots of sunshine, which is very nice as well. But northwesterly winds, even tomorrow afternoon, still bit on the gusty side. So the other thing is that they drive the snow squall, so some of the watches and warnings around the Georgian Bay region through Barrie in that area, and some of those flurries, light in nature, but make their way down towards the GTA. So not only overnight tonight, but into especially the early part of tomorrow, we'll be dealing with that. Then later on into the afternoon, we should start to see some sunny breaks developing. As for Sunday, lots of sunshine to go around. Through the weekend, temperatures are a little below seasonal, actually, but they begin to rise, and they don't just go above seasonal. They're going to outdo themselves way above seasonal as we go into next week. So our highs for today, just having a look at where we got some of these, yes, are kind of rounded up a little bit, but 1 degree for Toronto, 0 Oshawa. You can see Barrie there at -3, where we had some more of those winds, really stronger too through southwestern Ontario, and that trend, tonight they tend to back off a little bit through the overnight hours, but then coming back at us tomorrow, even into the afternoon. Although the sustained winds may be a little lower, we'll see some of the gusts at times stronger than this, and then they'll ease off even more as we get into tomorrow evening. So we'll finally get rid of the strong northwesterly winds, but we've got a little time to go yet. So you can see how we get a little bit of squall activity, some flurries kind of here and there with the impact of those winds. Then with that ridge of high pressure into Sunday, there's quite a lot of sunshine, a few clouds in a few spots at times, but mostly southern and eastern Ontario. It's going to be bright for us and lots of blue skies. Overnight tonight, -12, how it's going to feel for the Windsor area. -7, though, the temperature, some of those flurries as well. Again, coming off the lake there. You see that into London. You even have that chance tomorrow with -2 for the high, much cooler than what we'll experience towards Leamington and towards Windsor, where we're hoping to see 4 degrees. So we're on your Saturday. Overnight tonight, a little bit of a range when you consider St. Catharines at -5, Markham at -10, -8 for Pearson. And then for tomorrow, Pearson up to -2. I think downtown will get -1, maybe even see into the city coming up to the freezing mark, so slightly milder. Speaking of the freezing mark, that's where we're going on Sunday. And overnight lows, watch. Not only are those really going to be coming up, but boy, oh boy, look at the daytime temperatures. So Monday, 8, double digits. Are we going to see them? Yes, I believe so, starting Tuesday, and if not, certainly by the time we get to Wednesday. But I think we're going to hit that 10 even on Tuesday, Chris.
Love it. Have a great weekend, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
A tour of Toronto from Dundas Square to the TTC. Drake's new music video for his song What's Next features landmarks from all over the city, putting the spotlight firmly on Toronto. We'll be right back. At that same time. A new leader is set to take center stage at the Young People's Theater. Herbie Barnes has been named as the next artistic director for the famous theater troupe. He's the first Indigenous artistic director in the company's 50-plus years. I got a chance to speak with him about his next gig. What does it mean to you to be the artistic director of the oldest and largest youth theater company in the country?
It's amazing for me. Children's theater has always been like a major part of my life. It's so important to me. I've been involved in it my whole career. It's a huge passion for me, and education too, which is the other side of Young People's Theater, teaching and stuff like that. So that is it's huge.
I grew up doing live theater, and I remember so many lessons that I learned from being a part of a theater company, the theater community, confidence, the ability to, make quick friends. These kinds of things really stick out for me. Are there things from your past with theater that stick out to you?
Absolutely. Problem solving, anything like that. Creativity is all based on the arts and what we do in theater. One of the things I always constantly teach is that there are no wrong answers, just great opportunities to change things. So it's that kind of thing. And of course, like making friends and communication and all of that comes from what theater is.
And you've been in this building many, many times.
Many, many times.
Over the years.
Yeah.
The first time, is that a memory that sticks out for you?
Absolutely. The first time, the first time was a show called Jacob Tutu Meets the Hooded Fang. And I remember them rappelling from the roof coming down into the audience. And then Maya Ardell, who was the artistic director, invited me to be to work here. So like that was 1992, 93 maybe.
And you've been applauded for being in the 90s, an Indigenous theater artist, and really pushing boundaries and breaking down barriers. What does that mean for you to be a part of that work, to be pushing society forward and trying to make it a better, more inclusive space for people?
I mean, that's like really important. There's a bunch. When I started out, there was 3 of us sort of here in the city, young Native actors. It was a very small circle, and it's slowly been building bigger and bigger and bigger. And now we've got stuff like the National Arts Center has a wing that's First Nations, and opening that circle is what I've always tried to do.
Live theater thrives on a crowd, the audience, everybody being together, that escape. How difficult has it been to be a part of the theater community during the pandemic?
It's incredibly hard. One of the things that we realized is that Zoom is not a medium for theater artists. Like, you need the reflection from the audience. The audience is part of the show. They've discovered that the audience's heartbeat can beat at the same pulse at the same time when they're in a theater show. Like, that's how connected that crowd is, and we miss that. We've strived, we've developed different things online and done it, but I can tell you our whole theater community is dying for the theater to come back. We are itching for our crowds to come back into our spaces.
And the crowds are itching to be in those spaces, I just know it. And speaking of young people taking center stage, you have to meet this 6-year-old from Milton. Listen to those pipes. That is Praniska Mishra. She is a grade 1 student from Milton, and she just recently sang the national anthem at a Washington Wizards game after winning a contest. And you can tell why from those pipes and that poise. And here's what she thought of the experience.
I was not scared. I was like a little bit nervous. I just practiced and then I got confidence.
Boy, did she ever get confidence. And that is our show for you tonight. Have a great night.